back. We're here.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Lynn Serrano. We got
Scott Jones. And this is the Lynn and Scott and Friends show. And these are all of our friends. In fact, not all of them. Some people are missing tonight. But hey, we got the A-team here. So we're good.
Reliable people show up.
Yeah, we got RexSikes.com here, Teodora, and Steve Rizzo. I love just saying Teodora. Sorry, Moga.
That's okay. Teodora is my name, and I'm honored to be here.
We are happy to be here.
She has the best background of all of us. I mean,
and it's real.
Yeah, she's got like a real fireplace and a real brick background. This is fake brick behind me, and everyone else has got their. Yeah, look at this.
I came closer to it so that I can warm my back, and I'm sitting on the floor on a big pillow. So, but yeah, I'm very
perfect.
Well, the background is real, but she's a projection.
I feel like her sitting there like that, she should start singing Christmas carols or something.
Yeah.
It just make it
no place like home
for the holidays.
Even in January, that's okay.
I can't believe I'm the only one that doesn't have some kind of brick behind them.
Yeah, really. Really.
Well, you have those realistic palm trees.
Yeah.
Look at the palm trees I used to see when I did acid, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I do believe the palm tree is the official tree of Billings, Montana. I do believe that, isn't it?
No, not by far.
Isn't it? That's the home of Donnell, too, isn't it?
Oh, I'm
yes,
mute myself
exactly. Tiny bubbles. All right.
What was that? It wasn't mine.
No, it's my one dog now that I have, and my daughter's here pick up the kids. So, Scott, I'm going to pass it to you, and I'll be quiet for a minute.
All right. All right. Well, she deals with the whiny dog. And one of the topic we brought up for today. Now, of course, anybody's got anything else they want to add or throw in there. Like I got to tell this group, if you have a thought, share it. This group knows how to do that. But this was something I was thinking about a lot, about who inspired us in our lives. Maybe who inspired us when you were young, and who inspires us now, or who continues to inspire you. Because we do a lot of talk about, our own journeys and our own discoveries and how we like to share that with people. But we got it from somewhere. And I think maybe if we share a little bit of that about where we get our inspiration from and who we like to aspire to, that might help people find somebody to connect with. It's very difficult without having somebody to look to or somebody to look up to. And what I don't want this to become is I don't want people to think that inspiring or being inspired by somebody does not mean you want to be them. Don't fall into that trap, because whenever you try to be somebody else, you're always going to fall short. So don't do that. But maybe be inspired by parts of what they do, or maybe the path that they followed, that you want to find a path that you can believe in the same way. So I'd really like to share that with people. And I'll tell you, my original inspiration, I think like a lot of young people, was my father, was the first inspiration in my life. Because I remember my father after tornadoes. We lived in Wisconsin when I was very young, and we had tornadoes every once in a while. And I remember watching him in the backyard snapping tree branches in half with his bare hands and putting them in a pile, and just watching him. And I thought he was Superman. Now, it turns out years later, I found out they were twigs that he was snapping. But as a child, they were tree trunks, But I always remember my father was always just in control of everything around him. I never saw the truth. I never saw him pay bills or struggle over this or that. I never saw him, in his bad moments as far as his personal struggles. But what I saw was a strong man, and I always wanted to be that. And as I grew, that changed, and I started to find other people and things that inspired me. And I'll talk more about my inspiration today, but I thought we'd just kind of kick it off with, who inspired you guys and what kind of got you going on the paths that your lives are on now. So I'm just going to open that up for anybody who wants to kick in with that right away. Anybody got any thoughts right away on this? That's great. Okay, so I'm glad everybody joined us today. We'll catch us next week when we're going to do mime next week. We're just going to go out there and now. What do you say, Steve? Did you have some people in your life that kind of inspired you, maybe as a youth or maybe later in life?
Yeah, quite a few, but of course the biggest inspiration in my life is my brother Michael, who, as you know, passed away a few weeks ago. He taught me, as a matter of fact, the common sense success strategies that I use when I give presentations. I got them from him. The way he overcame adversity, very simple, innate strategies that we're all born with. And somehow, I don't even think he was aware that he tapped into it. It's just who he was. And he really didn't inspire me so much in words. He never said much. It's amazing. I'm a motivational speaker, and he could say more in one sentence than I can say in 3 paragraphs. It's just he had this way about him. And I know you guys know his story, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but what he went through and how he survived. Well, he didn't survive; he thrived. There was something within me, even when I was 17 years old. I just observed him, and how is he ever going to overcome the impossible when doctors said he would never make it, let alone he would live half a life. They didn't think he'd live at all. As a matter of fact, that's why they gave him. They said he was 100% disabled as a result of the Vietnam War, because they're very stringent with that. Even though a lot of the people that fought for their country should get what they deserve, the VA has a way of trying to manipulate so you don't deserve it. But they figured he wasn't going to live long, and because he is the only man in medical history that ever survived that wound, and he kind of faked them out big time. And what he did and what he achieved and how he did it was just absolutely incredible. And I just studied him. I was smart enough to ask myself questions. How did he do this? And then one day I just had a conversation with him that was supposed to last an hour. It lasted weeks. And I would go over to his house almost every day, and I'd write out a list of things that he had that empowered him. And one was his train of thought, and which created this incredible belief system, even though everyone around him believed he wasn't going to make it. Then it was his incredible sarcastic, way off color sense of humor that helped him to bounce back all the time. And then it was his the mindset that he created. And I think one of the things that impressed me more than anything, I mean, when he was in the hospital for 7 months, he made a conscious choice to enjoy himself during the rebuilding process. And that's something that really, really amazed me. I mean, how can anyone, because most people, they have to get what they think they want in order for them to be happy. But he just focused on the slightest little thing, like getting up to go to the bathroom by himself in the hospital. He was ecstatic about that, and he bragged about that, and he held on to that, and he just enjoyed. It's not to say he didn't fall back a few times. Yeah, he did. But even more so, it was even more inspiring because he always bounced back. He always said no to the naysayers and yes to himself. And so he is, without a doubt, he's the reason why I went to college. And, you guys know I was voted least likely to succeed in my senior class in high school. And he's the one that took me by the hand when he was going to college. He was only 94 pounds. And he had me sit in a classroom with him for 2 weeks just to get a feel for it. And I had no idea what the hell he was trying to do. Then he took me, excuse me, to the administration building, and he told me he was going to sign me up for next semester. And I was petrified. He said, "You can do this. You can do this." And I did it. And after about a week or two of getting into the groove, I eventually graduated with high honors and with many degrees. And I owe it all to him. That gave me the confidence to believe in myself. And then when I was doing that, I was doing stand-up part-time. And then I became really good at stand-up, and I left the teaching then because I taught for a couple of years, and at the same school that I graduated from, where I was voted least likely to succeed. That's what I have to say to them. But from being a teacher and a counselor for kids with behavioral problems, at night I was at the comedy clubs in Long Island, and something clicked, and I was doing really good. Then all of a sudden, clubs started opening up all over the country. I decided to leave, and I became a a stand-up comedian for 25 years, did a lot of TV stuff, and then I left that and I decided I want to do something else, and I became a personal development speaker. That's what I'm doing now, but I owe every bit of that to him because he's the one that led me to believe in myself. And what amazes me is when he passed away, we had significant time together, and he just grabbed my hand. This is a week before he passed away, and he told me, which really blew me away, that I was the biggest inspiration in his life because I did what no one in my family could ever think about doing. And that really stuck with me, and he's the guy.
Steve, thank you for that. And again, thank you to your family and your brother for the service and the sacrifice. It is appreciated. And, I think we can all be inspired by all of our first responders and military people. I don't think we are enough. I don't think we do that enough, and we thank them enough and certainly look up to them enough. Hopefully one day that'll change, where when you see a police officer drive down the street, you wave and use all 5 fingers when you wave, not just the one. But anyway, yeah.
Can I just say one more thing since we have a smaller group here today?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What's up?
I think the biggest lesson I learned from him, and I don't think I told this to you guys, this was just a few years ago, and I hesitated asking him, and I said, "Hey, man, you're 100% disabled as a result of the Vietnam War." I said, "Did you ever get angry at yourself or your country? Because if you did, I never noticed it. For serving a war that you shouldn't have been in the first place. History proved wrong, that we should never have been in Vietnam." And he took a deep breath, and I thought he was going to sort of like verbally attack me, and he didn't. He said, "That's a great question." And he goes, and the answer is this. He goes, "At first, I was angry at myself. After, the war was over, years passed, and history proved that we shouldn't have been there." He goes, "But it didn't last long. I was very upset with my country." He goes, "But I learned something." I said, "What?" He said, "This is really the biggest lesson I learned from him." He said, "Your whole life is based on choices, and for every choice you make, there's always a consequence. But here's the thing. I'm not a fortune teller, and I can't predict the future, and I didn't have a crystal ball. At that moment in time, I really believed that my country needed me because that was the propaganda that was going on. I was proud, and I still am proud, that I joined the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps made me the man that I am, and I was proud to fight for my country. And then when I found out we shouldn't have been there, as in the middle of that anger, he said something clicked to me, and he goes, I realized that life is based on choices, and I had another choice to make. I could choose to hold on to the anger, like most of the Vietnam vets who are disabled have chosen to do, who blame themselves, berate themselves for joining a war that they should never been in, and blame their country for doing what they did to them. But my brother said, I took a choice that I said, what do I do from this point on? I know my life isn't what I thought it was going to be, but what can I do with what I have? Who can I go to that can help me? What choices and what strategies need to be taken for me to live a life where I can enjoy it and I can become the victor instead of the victim? And that blew me away. That statement just blew me away. And if everyone could heed to that every choice you make, and we can make choices right now with family, and then all of a sudden 3 years ago you go, holy shit, I screwed up. Okay, but what are you going to do? You got to make another choice from this point on then, because that's what it's all about. Otherwise you become the victim. You blame other people for your unhappiness and for your lack of success. And I think that is about the biggest lesson I learned from him.
Wow. Well, that's going to be hard to follow, guys. Would anybody like to step up to the plate after that?
I think I can build up on one thing that Steve said, and that who we are and what we're here to do, and also maybe change the question a little bit. Who inspired you in your life? I think we can talk about who modeled me in my life first, and then transition into who inspired me. Because if we talk about Teodora, and in general, I want to believe that children are modeled by their parents. In my life, I grew up in a very loving family of 5. I have 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest, and so my parents we're a very hardworking middle income family with growing up in communism with rationed food. So what was there available was a lot of work. And where could we make life happen to have a better life than being ratioed by the food, was to go work the land. And so that's what we did, work the land. And so growing up like that as a child, what I know now is to work. So no matter what, I just work and work and work and work and work. But if we were to talk about being inspired, I think I get my inspiration from everybody around me. I mean, if I go to the grocery store and I see a struggling mother, first I offer to help. I was at the pool the other day with Alma, and there was a mother with a disabled child and a baby. And she was handling both while her husband was away. And so I went and offered to help her and to hold the baby while she was holding the disabled child in the pool. So I get inspiration everywhere around me at all the time, because just by helping others and looking at others, we can see what to do and sometimes what not to do. There's a lot of things that could inspire us positive and maybe inspire us in a negative way and say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, I don't know, go drink and drive, or because that's what can happen. So I think in so many ways we can get inspired. And first, it was my parents. They taught me how to work and how to do everything that I need to do so that I can have a good life, just like they did for us as a family. And I continue doing that for Alma, and she's super blessed. I mean, by the hard work that we do sometimes together and that I do for her, we have a good life. I think it's also fair to say that sometimes I honestly inspire myself. I overcome so many things and so much hardship. And absolutely, I have amazing people in my life. I mean, Lynn is my number one check back on track to me. Even today, there was a situation when she said, no, you don't do that. You don't go there. And I have the support system because I want to believe that I'm a support system for others. And then I created that, and I, reached the point where I can say, hey, Lynn, I need help. What do I do? So I also believe that we should be our own inspiration. We need to be able to look and analyze ourselves and say, Teodora, this is where you lack some things, and this is where you can do better, but this is where you're really good at. You're really good at creating relationships. You're really good at helping others. And you're not good at maybe not see yourself as a victim every now and then. So get back on track. But it's really important, one, to be inspired, two, to listen to people like Rex, follow people like Rex, absolutely. And yes, Live Life on Your Own Terms is an incredible book. I think I read it 3 times so far. I keep going back to it because there's so many good things in there that I needed to be reminded of, read, and put back in my brain. Just go back and refer to, and it's amazing. But to begin with, my parents were my bigger inspiration, and then every moment of every minute I can be inspired by somebody. Even my daughter can be an inspiration. She came up with a business idea. She's 11.
Wow.
Everything around us can be an inspiration. We just have to be open to it.
That absolutely brilliant. I love that. I love the idea that inspiration doesn't have to be contained by like one iconic figure, that it's every day that we see it. The inspiration of one kind act being performed in front of us, or one person, like you said, juggling so many things, but they get by and they're doing it. And I love the inspiration from ourselves. Every day, the things that we overcome on a daily basis, no matter how small or how large they might be, It's that idea that I took all those steps. I could take the next step. I can do this, and starting to believe in ourselves and be inspired by ourselves. I love that. Teodora, you always bring so much real heart and quality to our stuff. I really appreciate you. Really do.
I really appreciate you guys. I'm just, again, so honored that I can be here, and just share what I go through and my experiences through life, through this, journey that I, going from where I was to where I want to be and where I am now are maybe 3 separate places. And how do we get where we are? And yeah, it's an honor for me to be able to share that journey with the world through your show. And so thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited about Rex, because Rex is really gonna bring it around the circle here. Like
I have a feeling this is kind of right up Rex's alley, because
Yes.
especially, I was part of his clubhouse today, watching some of the stuff and listening to him talk and his blog. Just so much good stuff. This is right up your alley, Rex, is about, finding inspiration and moving forward with it. So what do you think? Tell us who inspired the man Rex?
The one and
We're
only.
all interested. Who was it who made this man in front of us?
Well, before I get there, let me say this.
Let's go big.
let me say this. Both Steve and Teodora are very, very difficult to follow, as are you and Lynn. But one thing you don't know about me, you know what remote viewing is? The notion of being able to see things at a distance and influence them. Right. I'm a remote ventriloquist. So to follow them, anyway, no, I'm just.
I love it. I love it.
Are you insinuating I'm a dummy?
No, but
no. It depends. If you ask me who inspired me, it depends. When I was 4, it was Groucho Marx. I loved the Marx Brothers. I thought they were fantastic and did everything I could to be a Marx brother. And when I was 5, it became Houdini, and I still love the Marx Brothers, but Houdini, was long dead by the time I was 5 years old. But he had always said that my mind is the key that unlocks everything. And so that, and the idea of being unstoppable and being a champion and being an icon of freedom meant everything to me. So as I grew up, people like that, there were Jesus and Buddha, were big in my book. As an actor, I loved James Dean and Errol Flynn and different actors who were, particular to me. Later, it became, people who I actually decided I would spend time with, like Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, Muktananda, Satchidananda, Krishnamurti. I mean, I spent a lot of Ram Dass. I spent a lot of time living with and spending time with different Eastern mystics and gurus and living in an ashram and stuff like that. I would say that overall, who inspires me are mostly unsung people that you don't know their names, people that I've been influenced by, like in their programs or their workshops, my acting coach, for example, my friends, obviously family. But the people who come into my workshops and into my programs are the ones that inspire me. The people in my clubhouse room are the ones that inspire me. Oftentimes, I'm just there and someone says something or does something, or they have an issue or a problem or a solution that triggers something that allows me to be inspired and to download or to share something. The reason why I wrote the book was because, I was inspired to say, I want to make a difference for these other people. When I'm in a workshop, that workshop could be 5 people, it could be 50 people, it could be 500 people. I consider myself the luckiest person there, because while I'm in the front of the room presenting, I have 5 or 50 or 500 people who come from all different walks of life, who have all different talents, who have all different experiences and have all different stories. And I get to interact with them and learn about them and steal some of their behaviors, their ideas, their resources, while keeping them intact in them. I get to borrow that and benefit from them. And so many of my students have gone on to do incredibly great things, and they're doing wonderful things in the world. So, every moment, my dogs inspire me, for goodness sake, and my children, of course, inspire me. So inspiration comes from all around. It's not one person, but it's many. And you inspire me. The people who are on this platform inspire me. So,
Rex, you had me want to laugh when I heard Errol Flynn there. Errol Flynn.
I loved Errol Flynn. I loved Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I disappeared. My internet went out.
No, the story
I was
about it.
I was a
laughter.
John Wayne guy. I was John Wayne all the way. I wanted to be John Wayne.
We used to sneak into Errol Flynn's property up on La Brea. It had burned down, and I used to drive by his mansion up on Mulholland Drive and go, "That'll be my house someday." And then somebody moved into it and burned that down. And the idea that here was somebody who was an Australian, actually a Tasmanian, kind of kick-ass rogue that made it in the film business, was something that while I was in the film business was just really, really motivating, really inspiring, and really, but James Dean, the kind of the iconic people,
I like Cary Grant.
Cary Grant.
Yeah. Archibald Leach.
Yep.
That was his real name. Yeah. Yeah. He should have gone with that. He would have gone far. No.
Did you ever see the documentary? Now we're going off topic, but you ever see the documentary Becoming Cary Grant?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a 2-part documentary on HBO.
It's still there.
Definitely want to check that out. I want to take this back where Teodora started going in a direction that I wanted to go into in my second half of, because I talked about like my father and my, there was teachers that inspired me, and there was different people, music teachers. One of my music teachers used to be an opera singer, and his name was Mr. Black. He's long since passed, but he used to come into the room and we thought there was something wrong with him, because he would start singing opera to, kids in grade school. And everyone around him started making fun of him. But me, I just sat there and thought, how does that sound come out of this human being? How amazing is this? And I was always inspired. I would get goosebumps listening to this guy. And it inspired me to like go on stage. And I've been on stage since I was a kid, dancing and singing and doing all that. I don't dance anymore. It's very much like the villagers are chasing me with torches when I start dancing now. It's not good. It's not pretty.
So
but
you dance like the former president.
Yeah, that's just I get the white man's overbite going. Yeah, I know. I do the whole thing.
It's already been done, Rex.
Yeah, the Cabbage Patch, I just do it all. But as I changed, and because of the things that I went through, inspiration for me changed to a very negative thing. And I started to believe, because of my addiction and because of the family situation and all the things I was going through, I started to aspire to be unfeeling, uncaring, and mean. And so I would start to gravitate those things into my life and look at people. I was like, I don't want to hurt anymore. I want to be more like this person who doesn't seem like they like anybody. They don't care about anybody. And I tried to be those things. And so my inspiration actually, if I chose a negative path, and therefore I created negative inspirations around me, and I did that. When I got better, and yes, it is about getting better. I started to look to people who were in the deep, dark despair places that I was, and saw them come out of it. And even to this day, like you said, Rex, you got these people in your classes, and I have people in my groups, and I'm working with them. And I'm watching somebody 3 days off of heroin have an epiphany of some moment, or just one moment of clarity, one moment of love, one moment of pure crying or pure laughter, what a real thing coming out of this person. And there's nothing more inspirational to me than that, is to see somebody who has been at the lowest places a human being can go, and yet come out and still find their humanity, even just a little bit. Those things inspire me now. And like Teodora was saying, I inspire me. I think my greatest inspiration today is I have inspirations all over the place. My friend Gary, he inspires me to do more music and to go on stage more. My friend Edie, she inspires me to paint more. And my mom inspires me to love more and to be nicer to people. All these people do this, but my greatest inspiration is what happens in here, my creativity. When I think of something, instead of saying I can't or I'm never going to do that, I start to look at it as that's what I need to look at for my inspiration is the thoughts that I have. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to do. And that's what I want to chase. I get pieces from everybody, but the truest inspiration is as I learn about myself, I start to realize more of what I want in my life. And I'm inspired by those thoughts, my creativity and my stuff. And what I've learned, especially over these last several years, which is where most of my growth happened, because I kind of grew up when I was about 48 years old. I was pretty much a child until then, get laid, get paid, and keep going. That was pretty much my whole lifestyle.
That's not what we're supposed to do?
Well, yeah, but then people stopped paying me, and then, of course, people stopped, the other one. I
don't want to change careers.
Why would you want
to? I'm a single guy. I live alone, and I just got a cat. What does that tell you? Life is done.
That's a good title for a book.
Yeah, really.
That is a single guy with a cat.
The single guy with a cat.
Get laid, get paid. That's a good
get laid, get paid. Oh, that book, Yeah.
No, don't do that.
I know how that one ends. I don't want to write that one.
If we say get paid, get laid, it's a crime.
Yeah, there we go. But the truth is that as we find ourselves, we need to start listening to that voice inside of us that says, I want to achieve this, and follow that like you would somebody else. Just because it's created within you and not created out. If somebody else said it, I'd be like, oh, that's brilliant. I want to go do that. I say it myself. My first thought is, Steve, you talk about this all the time, the big mouth. The first thought is, well, you can't. It's not going to happen. You're not going to do that. And I don't manifest anything that comes from myself until now. Now I'm living a life where if I'm thinking it, I'm going to manifest it. If I'm going to manifest it, I'm going to follow it. And I become my own inspiration. And I take pieces from everybody. But that's kind of where it's evolved to. It's evolved from, I need other people to be my guide to start believing in yourself and start following I'm still going to do things wrong. I'm still going to screw things up. And no, I'm never going to be a great opera singer or this or that.
Right.
But that's not who I'm supposed to be. Who I'm supposed to be is my inspiration has taken me so that I've already booked a gig next year. I'm performing at a recovery month celebration in Melbourne, Florida. Me and my friend are performing on stage. We're doing a whole set of songs, and I'm having an art booth where my art and a lot of my other friends' art is going to be sold, and all the money's going to charity. And I never would have done that if I didn't listen to my inner self and say, this is what you want to be a rock star? Then go do that. Get on stage. Get on stage. I don't know if anybody's going to throw bras and panties at me, but, hey, I can hope. Or I can hire somebody.
Hey, Steve and I will.
Yeah, oh, you will? Yeah, thanks.
Hey, you know what, though, Scott? You said something earlier that it just clicked. Doesn't that make you feel, though, that we're all interconnected somehow?
Oh, absolutely.
Wasn't it your friends that were pushing you? You should do more with your music. You should do more with your. And isn't that the thing that makes you? Something clicks in you, all of a sudden you might even push it aside for a second because the big mouth inside your head will go, oh, no, you don't want to do. But all of a sudden that higher part, the silent voice, which is so much more powerful, your authentic self, starts saying, you know what? He's not the first or second person that said that to me.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe. And that's the beauty of inspiration too, because each and every one of us said we got it from someone else or somewhere else. And we're
a mirror of each other.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. But the point is, if people could acknowledge that, and this way you could be more in tune when you're praying for something and you're by yourself and you're meditating, you're asking for something for the real you to evolve. Just know that person that just said to you, hey, man, that was really good. How come you're not doing more of that?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the spark that ignites that prayer, the seed possibility for it to manifest. It's so simple and it goes by so fast that it's so easy to forget.
It's so funny that I could say to myself, oh, I think I can do this. And somebody will say, I told you that 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But when somebody else tells me, it's like, here's the thing. I could see people and I could see the possibilities in them. That's why I love to help people, because I could see the humanity. I could see the possibilities. But then when somebody says they see possibilities in me, I'm like, no, you don't know.
Yeah.
But they do. We are
Well,
all connected that way.
Interesting is the interesting part is that even the reverse can be.
I was just going to say that
at the same time. My father told me all the time, "You're not going to be nothing," because he knew that is going to motivate me and make me be like, "I'll prove it to you." So even when the reverse comes into discussion, and we have people telling you, you're just a florist. What do you want to do in the financial business? What do you think that you can get a Series 6 license or a Series 7 and just start investing people's money when all you did for your career was arranging flowers? So guess what Teodora does? I'll show you.
Yeah.
So even the reverse is true if we talk about being inspired, because it can be fire under somebody's butt, somebody who's like powerful.
And you never know where it's going to come from. The one person that ignited my speaking career was George Carlin. Okay, not just because I'll make this a quick story. At the very beginning, the first maybe 6 months to maybe first year of my comedy career, I was going to quit because I couldn't handle the politics. I really couldn't. And my negative labels from my past were coming back to haunt me, not being good enough or smart enough and all that kind of stuff. And I was hanging out at the Comedy Condo. This is where the comedians used to hang out. And I'm in Fort Lauderdale. It's a Saturday and with 3 shows. And I'm talking to this guy, Tony, and I'm telling him this is going to be my last show. I can't do this anymore. And I didn't know he knew George Carlin. Okay. He told me he did, but I didn't believe him. So we're at the Comedy Condo and the phone rings. And this guy, Bill, answers. He goes, Steve. He goes, it's a guy on the phone. He says he's George Carlin. And I'm going, yeah, right. So I pick up the phone and I go, yeah, Steve Rizzo. Goes, Steve. He goes, yeah, it's George. I said, George who? He goes, George Carlin. I said, you're right. And I hung up. Right. So he calls back immediately and he goes, let me tell you something, asshole. You hang up on me again. You said you're going to miss a big opportunity. And I knew it was him. He was at the Sands Hotel. You talk about somebody inspiring you. He was at the Sands Hotel and he was going to go on in Atlantic City. He said, I have 2 hours before I go on. So let's just make this short. What's your problem? And I told him. He goes, do you have he said, get a pen and paper, because they didn't have iPhones or anything. He goes, write down my home phone number. He gave me his home phone number in Beverly Hills. He goes, you call me this Tuesday coming. I'll be home. He goes, anytime, call. I'll pick up the phone and we'll talk. Damn it. I called him on Tuesday and I even hesitated. Part of me didn't even want to because, I just figured, gee, what am I going to tell George Carlin? He was my idol. So he picks up the phone and I told him my whole story. And he goes, do you think you're really good? I said, yeah, I'm really good. I said, there are a lot of people that can't even follow me. That's why I started headlining right away. She goes, do you have a VHS tape of yourself? And I said, yes. He goes, send it to me. Back then, they didn't have CDs or anything. I sent it to him. And he goes, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll tell you if you're good or not. I get a letter from him. And I have it in my bedroom in glass in a frame. And it says, Dear Steve, I looked at your VHS tape. He goes, I want to tell you, you definitely have what it takes. I can't believe you were doing this for almost only a year. If I find out that you quit, I will get on a flight from LAX, fly to JFK, knock on your door and beat the fuck out of you. That's what he said to me. That's in the letter. And then he puts, love, George. But here's the cool thing. Until he passed away, he still would call me every 3 to 4 months or so just to talk and see how I'm doing. And I had the freedom to call him whenever I wanted, which I very, very rarely did. And I never asked him for anything after that again. But that's inspiration on more than just the fact that he's the one that led me to continue my comedy career. Inspiration for the power of the human spirit, that someone of that magnitude took that time for someone who is a complete unknown.
But Steve, you do that for other people now too. You're modest, but I will say I've got your phone number, just like Rex. I got his phone number and I could call you guys anytime and you'll pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that means a lot. And so, That's a big deal, and it's nice to see that you guys pay that stuff forward.
Well, that's why I love this show. It always branches off. It always branches off into other golden nugget segments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I understand now a whole lot more about Steve, because I had a poster of Farrah Fawcett over my bed. You had a letter from George Carlin. It explains a lot about how our lives went.
Yeah, but I had that same poster. I was looking at her as he was talking now.
I'm looking at her, hearing his voice.
Multitasking.
I want to know about Lynn.
What about Lynn?
Yeah, what about you, Lynn? Who inspires you?
Who inspires you?
Everybody does, of course.
Okay, next.
Yeah. It's funny because I do find myself going back to like fourth grade and who inspired me. I used to just write and write. I used to do like J.K. Rowling's kind of very animated, adventures. The teacher would put a sentence on the board and you had to write a story about it. And I would write pages and pages and pages. And I used to write a lot, and then I stopped writing. And then long story short, 2001, well, in the 1990s, 94 or 96, 97, 98, there used to be a Blue Mountain greeting cards on the internet. And I was a ghostwriter and wrote quite a few things on there and got paid for it. And we had a house fire, and I lost like all my little things, and whatever. But there was stuff that I actually published and stuff back then. But, my ex-husband was like, "You can't write." And I'm like, "Well, I got a couple $1,000 royalty checks here to say otherwise, But I haven't written in a while, and
Why?
I know I know that that's something of a passion of mine that I'm going to get back into writing. But so I mean, I was just a real shy kid, very quiet, and I just had I had too much trauma when I was younger. So but my comedy was Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball and all those different things. Hee haw. I mean, you just name it. I tried to go for laughter, the Laugh-In program. I mean, I was just always into, I mean, there's just so many shows that, if it wasn't for the TV and the laughter, I wouldn't have ever known what laughter was or joy. So, a lot of inspiration from TV and I loved Little House on the Prairie. I mean, there's just a lot of love that I found, but I just kept a lot of stuff inside for many years. So, so my inspiration is just so many people that have helped. I get inspired by seeing other people sharing their voice and sharing who they are and paying forward that way. And like I said, Rex has had a real big impact on my life the last couple of years, and I truly believe in his book. And I think Steve's book is very inspiring, and it goes to show you, later in your career, to be able to write something that was so powerful to you, Steve, is also says that, who's to say your career starts young or old or wherever it is, or the fact that you basically went to an author the third series of your life, so to speak, or a fourth life, because you were a teacher, comedian, and then a speaker, and then, now an author. And so, I mean, when you think of all those different things, and I mean, same thing with Rex, all the different things that he's done in his life. And it's just really amazing, and it just reinforces that you can create yourself at any time, and you can be who and what you want, and it comes from within, comes out. And taking things in, you've got to, I just been recently watching Bob Proctor's Born Rich, and real 10-hour thing, and I think I'm at like the 9th hour now. But long story short is I just love the fact that we have to be conscientious of what we put in our subconscious mind, which Rex talks about that all the time, and the fact that we shouldn't have that defy us. And when we realize we're in prison, you can't get out of the walls. And something profound somebody said earlier about, the mind, Rex said it, in your mind unlocks everything. That's just like, it hits me to say that when somebody sits there and thinks that this is it, and Rex says this all the time, whether you think you can or you can't, you're always right. And it's just, you don't need to be defied or proved or get verification from anybody but yourself. So those things are really important for us to realize, that we get inspired by the reflection of everybody else, because all this stuff's been around years and years. And I don't know how many times it's got to be said how to do something, but we need that reminder, just like brushing your teeth every day or taking a shower, right? I mean, you just rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Rex, we put a lot out there. I want to see, Rex, can you unpack all of this for us in some way? Because
I just, before I do, on top of all of it, I'm going to wait a couple more years, and then I'm going to unleash my chicken recipe to the world. And then I got a really great idea for some chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
It's never too late, I mean, whenever you do it is when you do it. And so
I love you, Rex.
And I'm going to drive around. I'm going to take my recipe everywhere. And I don't care.
Okay, Colonel.
I was just going to say, we're going to call you Colonel Rex.
Yeah.
Or the General. The General.
Called Keep Them Coming Hungry.
5-star chicken. 5-star chicken.
Rex Sikes, finger licking good. There we go.
ACH. Keep chicken. Keep.
That's all, folks.
Okay. Hey, Lynn, I got a question. You kept saying past tense. I used to write. I used to like writing. How come you don't?
I'm not sure why I've stopped, but I'm getting back to it.
I think you do know
because now she has Teodora to take care of all day, every day.
There you go.
No. Anyways, so Scott. Oh, here we go. Chef Rex MD, attorney at law.
By Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Let's do a round, go around the room, give everybody a couple of minutes to kind of wrap up this idea of inspiration, whether it's from others, from yourself, from. I think we've kind of all agreed on the fact that it doesn't have to be a person who you have to completely be inspired by every single thing they freaking do, because those are perfect people and they don't exist. So don't do that. But to be inspired by moments. And the only way that that's possible is if you're present in your moments. A lot of people spend so much time not in the moment and missing little miracles, little moments, little signs and little keys of this can make my life better. This is something I should aspire to, because I'm standing in the checkout line, texting on my phone and not looking up at the human beings around me and seeing what's going on. I'm not communicating with people anymore. We need to be present in our moment and be connected to the rest of humanity. And that's how we're going to find our inspiration. So, and of course, obviously be present with yourself and know that every bit of your journey was a part of building who you are today. And if you survive the journey so far, you're doing some things right. You can't discount a life that you're still living, because you're doing something right because you're still here. So there's a lot of things to be taken from this, but let's go around the room. Lynn, who should start off for us to go
Teodora.
around?
How's that
Teodora.
sound?
Let's go around.
I could start by telling you guys what inspires me from what I know about every one of us here.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to start with Scott. And I'm going to tell you that what inspires me from what you're doing is to never give up on the people in my life that need love when their behavior is unlovable. Lynn, you inspire me because you're such a good person and you're there and the way you call me and you check on me is just so amazing to have in my life, and I want to thank you. Steve, you want to know what you do for me? You teach me that I have to laugh. When I want to just scream, I think about you and I'm like, okay, just think about a joke and just laugh, because life doesn't have to be so serious all the time, and it doesn't have to be about work and only work. So even though you don't do comedy anymore, I see you as this super funny, amazing comedian that I just love to death. And
I'm
Rex,
embarrassed.
without your book, I wouldn't know how to live life on my own terms.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you for writing this book, and I want to thank you for inspiring me to move on based on everything I learned from your book. So you're an inspiration once, and every single one of you, because I want to be an author and I'm working on my own book. So I want to be there.
Don't forget that. That's just the big deal.
Yes,
Dog shit or diamonds. You choose.
Oh yes, even that's amazing to have. But again, like I said earlier, we have to be inspired by everything around us, or we're just going to be flat, and that's not life. Life has ups and downs. It doesn't have a flat line, or we would be dead. So let the world around you be an inspiration to you, with good and bad, with everything between, and just live a beautiful life, because we're all beautiful people.
Amen, sister. You're so
And
beautiful.
I think I could speak for all of us, Teodora, when I say that you inspire us as well, to speak so bluntly about living in the communist country and going without, and the struggles of everyday life, conquered only by the love of a family. And there's so many people that have everything and have no idea just how grateful they should be for the things that are in their lives. And you inspire us to all think a little bit more about the blessings that we have. And we thank you for that. And to see you not only survive and thrive, but to grow and to share and to do all those things. You're an amazing human being, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve.
What?
Just say something brilliant.
God, you always just sucking the energy right out of me. What the hell do you want? What about my needs?
I want more, Steve. I just want more.
Read this, Scott.
Okay. Oh, Tim Gillette is saying, Steve, you're a great inspiration to me when meeting you. After I had planned out a speaking spot to just be funny and did not know you were going to be in the audience when presenting it, getting your feedback to let me know how I should stay with it, because at that point I was going to quit. Again, Steve, that is the exact story you told us about.
Yeah.
George Carlin and you have passed it on.
Wow.
That is inspiring, my friend.
Wow. What's really amazing is that I made the George Carlin story up.
What?
See, what goes around comes around. No, he did not.
I'm
He's
only
only kidding.
It was some other guy named George Carlton. Nobody ever heard of him. It was close.
Carlton, your doorman. Remember that show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim, thank you so much for saying that. I so much appreciate you.
Yeah. Tim.
What I want to tag on is what you were talking about, Scott, and Teodora said the same thing. Inspiration can only be experienced in the moment. It can't happen in the past. It can't happen in the future. But you know what? It's amazing. It bypasses us so often. I wrote this book from sheer inspiration. I was at the lowest point in my life at 4:30 in the morning, Venice Beach. I don't recommend that to anyone. And
I drove by there before I left.
I'm telling you. And I was cursing at God. I know what it's like to go out of your mind. I went out of my mind. And I was saying and finally, after if anyone would have heard me, they would have called 911. I calmed down, I take another step, and I heard something within me, such a powerful feeling. And this is inspiration. You know what's wrong, and you know why you're here. you're just too caught up in your own drama to find the answer. And I said, where did that come from? And I was smart enough to acknowledge it by asking another question, then another answer, then another question. And that's when I got into my car. I drove to my apartment in Marina Del Rey, and I took out my laptop and I kept asking questions, and answers were coming. I fell asleep for hours. I was exhausted. I went back, and I promise you, at least 80% of what I wrote, I don't remember writing. And then I just kept writing. And then I realized, oh my God, there's a book here. All from that one little spark of inspiration. There is a book here. Then my imagination set in. Then my sense of humor set in. Then my ability to be vulnerable and tell people who Stephen Francis Rizzo really is came in. And then this book, just from that one little spark of inspiration. And in my view, this is the best thing I ever did. This is the reason why I was put on this planet. My mission for the rest of my life from this point on is to get the message out in this book.
Steve, that's how I do write. I'll write and I just let my mind write. And it's some deep stuff. That's why I said
It's more than your mind, Lynn. You're letting the very essence of who you are. Your soul, your spirit is in there.
Yeah, it was Blue Mountain. I wrote a lot of stuff that people were giving to other people from there.
Yeah.
So
allowing your spirit that moment of clarity.
Yeah, it is. And when you do reread it, you're like, wow, who did I really write this? Yeah. Yeah.
What do you say, Rex? What do you say, my friend?
Oh, wait, before he says something, I have somebody here to say hi to Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I got friends all over. You just don't know me. Steve, thanks for being here. Or Tim, thanks for being here.
Well, it's good to see you guys again. It's been a while since I've actually watched you guys, and I missed it, watching you guys on a regular basis. So, and Steve, yes, you have no idea how much you needed to say what you said to me that night.
Wow. That's really cool to hear. Thank you. You're going to pay for that eventually somehow.
And Tim, we're going to go around and have you say what else inspires you right after Rex. So
thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rex. Take it away, brother.
Well, when I want to scream, I think of Steve too. What I love about the Carlin stories, and a lot of people think of Carlin as the angry man, the character that he personified, and in fact he was much different in person. And his daughter Kelly's a friend, and just remarkable people. I have a story similar to Steve's. I was in acting class, and this phone rings, and I pick it up and said, "Hi, is Lily in there?" And I said, "Who's this?" They said, "Jacqueline Bisset." And I said, "Yeah, pull the other one," and hung up on her. And it was the actress Jacqueline Bisset. She called back a moment later, and I went into the room before she called back. He said, "Hey, somebody called and said they were Jacqueline Bisset." She said, "Jackie called?" I said, "Yeah." And I hung up. And they go, "Well, answer it. Let me know when." And so when she called, they said, "I'm sorry, here she is." And then later, we all became friends. But the point is that I think of each of us here. The reason why I say it's the similar story as Steve is I think of all of us as, the different cells of one body. You've got toe cells and butt cells and lung cells and heart cells and brain cells and whatever. And each of us is a cell of an organism that's bigger than all of us. And every person on the planet is part of that organism. It's life in itself. So the ability to inspire yourself as a cell, or be inspired by other cells, or inspire the other cells themselves, is all part of this incredible process. The difficulty for some people is they've shut this system down. For example, people will listen to doctors or attorneys or educators, wherever, and say, "Well, I need to follow these, what the doctor says, or I need to follow what my attorney says." And the answer to that is no, you don't. They're giving you advice, but you ultimately have to make the decision. You have to trust yourself. You have to be the person who makes the decision based on having accurate, that kind of thing, or a decent sense of your own intuition. And a lot of people have covered that up. A lot of people have just lost touch with that, and so they don't make wise decisions. I always tell people, if you want, to learn about investment banking, go to an investment banker. You don't go to a farmer. You don't go to a water witch. You don't go to somebody. You go to the source so that you can learn it, so that you can develop your senses and your intuitions about it. If you want to learn farming, you don't go to an investment banker, or an airplane pilot. You go to a farmer. so that you can learn about weather and seasons and planting and growing and harvesting. And then you'll develop your own intuitions. And so what each person here represents, is this organism of talent and ability and opportunity and resources and potential and intuitions and inspirations that are all housed inside, what we think are separate people. And the ability to tap into that and to allow it to come forth and to trust that is a process that we all get to go through in this process that we think of as life. So to be able to sit here and talk to each other and to talk to the world and to discover how truly incredible each person is and the people around us and the people in this, it's just truly a beautiful thing. So find inspiration within, find it without. It is, but by the way, from within to without. But you have to be within enough and present enough to look without to be able to notice it as well. And if your attention is always outside and never within, then you're missing a whole lot of goodness. So it's that flow. And what people demonstrate here is the ability to be in flow. And so that I really appreciate.
I love you, Rex. Man. And Scott, this is Tim Gillette. He's the one.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Responsible for the razors.
My dad thought I was going to be a sharp kid.
Yeah, no kidding. I hear that all the time too. When people when they say you're Gillette, they go, "Well, at least your name wasn't Schick."
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
It's a blessing and a curse, though. Because I can't use the last name Gillette anywhere because it's trademarked.
Yeah, that
So it's a legal battle for me. Anytime I want to do anything, it's you have to keep a little radar.
Tell them they can't use the name Tim.
Well, no, everything I do has to say Tim Gillette. It can't just say Gillette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How's your career going?
How's my career going?
That was the question. Is there an echo in here?
Yes,
we're going to be done here in a second. So.
Yeah. 2023 is totally reevaluating everything I wanted to do in life. All right, because 2022 kicked me in the butt really hard. So, and literally, I was going to give up. I was going to walk away. The opportunities came up to move on to investments and not do have to work anymore. And some couple wise words was, when you're fed up with an industry, that means you have to do some changes in it.
Yeah.
So
change is good.
Yeah.
Change is where opportunity is.
Yeah. So
even if you don't see it yet.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of creating our seminars now to be interactive things that you don't come and just sit and listen. You come and do stuff. It's a project. It's a workshop. Good. That's what I want to do. I no longer want to be a speaker. Nope. I want to be a person who helps people get a plan out there.
I love it.
Good for you.
I love Tim. I had him on my Live, Love, Laugh show too. And and I love him dearly. So thank you so much for just coming on.
We talked earlier about backgrounds, and Tim, you seem to be like in the best space there, because obviously based on the blue lighting in your background, you find yourself an office in the back of a strip club. I'm very glad that you're there. It seems to be working out pretty well.
And I always encourage you, when you go to a strip club, have a picture with your wife and your 3 kids in there. Yeah, that's
always have it. Yes, of course. That keeps you out of trouble.
Legitimate.
Best to you, Tim. Best to you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you so much,
Tim. Next time, join us and do the whole show with us, would you please?
Yeah.
I would be glad to. It's just I need to know the schedule because
I'll hook up.
Lynn's got to catch me up on the schedule.
Yeah,
we'll hook you up.
Okay, Scott, you want to wrap it up?
I just want to thank everybody again. Steve, Rex, Teodora, Tim, Lynn, all you guys. And the ones who aren't with us tonight, and Bob and Barry and Flo and Debbie and all the others out there.
And the other Scott.
And the other Scott. Yes, absolutely.
Which did a great job last week.
And we were able to get through a show about inspiration or inspirational people without hearing Zig Ziglar once, which means Scott wasn't here. So, but it was, listen, it was great having you guys here and sharing your stories with us. And hopefully other people out there will get it. But I think the real point is out there, just be present in your life, be present with who you are, and start listening to the voices that tell you what you want to achieve. And let those be your inspiration, people. Don't wait for somebody else to create it for you. You create it. And if you create it, you can do it. Lynn.
Tim, stay right there after the show. Stay right there. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you guys. Love you, and we'll see you next week.
God
Have
bless.
a good one. Bye.
Keeping me sane.